Good morning and a very warm welcome. This is the Breakfast Rundown on TV1. I'm Therunee Karunaratne. We're coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. This morning on the Breakfast Rundown, we have quite a few important local news items. Well, 11 senior superintendents of police have been given transfers. Today is the second parliamentary session for the new year, and several key debates will be held throughout the day. And also paper marking for the Grade 5 scholarship examination is set to commence today. And also this morning on the Breakfast Rundown, we have an important update about the 2025 Independence Day celebrations. And as for news overseas, massive wildfires in the United States have affected tens of thousands of people. Well, details on all these stories are coming up right here on the Breakfast Rundown. Stay tuned with us. We have all the news in detail. On to the top local story for this morning now. 11 senior superintendents of police have been given transfers. According to the Police Media Division, SSP W.V. Ginige has been transferred to take charge of the Mathura Division. SSP KDGLA Dharmasena has been appointed in charge of the Negombo Division, while SSP BDTA Veera Singha has been appointed to head the Information Technology Division. The Police Media Division also stated that SSP RGAB Gunathilaka has been transferred to take charge of the Kalaniya Division. Meanwhile, SSP LR Gamage has been appointed as the Director of the National Authority for the Protection of Victims of Crime and Witnesses. SSP DSIA Amarasinghe has been transferred to the Parliament Police Division, and SSP MSK Vikramanayaka has been appointed as the officer in charge of the Mathale Division. SSP KMI Pereira has been appointed as the Director of the Inspector General's Command and Information Division, while SSP HDGS Amarasinghe has been transferred to the Ampara Division. SSP WA Somaratne has been transferred to take charge of the Vaunia Police Division, and the police headquarters also confirmed that SSP THEL Pereira has been transferred to head the Gampula Police Division. Now, today is the second parliamentary session for the brand new year 2025, and a parliamentary debate on several regulations, including those under the Colombo Port City Economic Commission Act, is scheduled to take place today. The Parliament will convene for this debate at 9:30 a.m. Under the leadership of Speaker Dr. Jagat Vikramaratne. Parliament sessions will continue this week until the 10th of January. On the 9th of January, debates will be held on provisions under the Sri Lanka Export Development Act, Special Goods and Services Tax Act, as well as Welfare Benefits Act. On Friday, the 10th of January, the entire day will be dedicated to expressing condolence motions for the late former members of Parliament. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Provincial Councils and Local Government says that the amended Provincial Council Election Bill will be presented to Parliament this week. Minister Professor Chandana Abiratna mentioned that the bill has already been gazetted. Meanwhile, paper marking for the Grade 5 scholarship examination is set to commence today, and this process will be carried out until the 12th of January. Commissioner General of Examinations Amit Jayasundara stated that results of the 2024 Grade 5 scholarship examination will be released within 40 days. While the 2024 Grade 5 scholarship examination sparked much controversy over the alleged leak of 3 questions of the first part of the paper, it was ultimately decided to award free marks to all the candidates for these 3 questions. It was revealed that 3 questions from the first part of the Grade 5 scholarship examination were released prior to the examination, which was held on the 15th of September. The Supreme Court's ruling on this case was announced on the 31st of December 2024, and accordingly, the Supreme Court directed the Commissioner General of Examinations to implement one of 3 recommendations that were previously presented by an expert committee that was appointed to look into this matter. And those 3 recommendations were awarding free marks for those 3 questions, or else annulling those 3 questions entirely, or conducting an entire re-examination. And the Supreme Court instructed that the most suitable recommendation be immediately implemented. The Department of Examinations announced on the 1st of January that after a thorough review of the possible positive and negative impacts of each recommendation, that it was decided to award free marks for these 3 questions for all the candidates who faced the 2024 Grade 5 scholarship examination. Well, let's move on to more local news for this morning. The Ministry of Public Administration, Provincial Councils and Local Government has announced that the 77th Independence Day celebrations will be held with reduced costs, reduced number of guests as well as activities. Minister Professor Chandana Abiratna stated that accordingly, the number of guests invited to join this year's Independence Day celebrations will be reduced from 3,000 to 1,600. He also mentioned that the 21-gun salute traditionally presented to the President will not take place this year. The minister further stated that the number of military and police personnel participating in the Tri-Forces and Police Parade will also be reduced. The display of armed vehicles during the military parade will not be conducted this year as part of the Independence Day celebrations. The minister also announced that air displays will be limited for this year's event. The minister confirmed that this year's Independence Day celebrations are scheduled to be held on the 4th of February, at the Independence Square in Colombo under the leadership of President Anurukumara Dissanayake. Now, the Ministry of Public Administration, Provincial Councils and Local Government has stated that steps are being taken to eliminate salary disparities among state sector employees. Minister Professor Chandana Abiratna mentioned that preliminary studies in this regard have already commenced. He pointed out that due to requests from trade unions and various decisions made by the previous governments, severe salary disparities have developed between different grades of state sector employees. The minister further stated that some of these salary disparities have been in existence since 1992. He explained that eradicating salary disparities in such a scenario is a complex issue and it must be done in a way that does not create an imbalance for state sector employees. To address this issue, discussions have already been held with the Ministry of Finance. And in more local news, the Auditor General's Department has announced that 465 new audit officers will be recruited by the end of this month. Auditor General WPC Karunaratne stated that individuals who have successfully passed the competitive examinations will be recruited in this manner. Their interviews are currently being conducted. There have been recent challenges in carrying out audit processes efficiently due to a vacancy rate of approximately 43% of audit officers. Let's move on to news overseas for this morning. Both our international news items are coming in from the United States. President-elect Donald Trump is showing no sign of letting up in his desire for the U.S. to acquire Greenland and the Panama Canal, calling both critical to American national security. Asked by a reporter if he would rule out using military or economic force in order to take over the autonomous Danish territory or the canal, he responded, and I quote, "No, I can't assure you on either of the two, but I can say this, we need them for economic security," unquote. It's not clear how serious he was in these remarks or if it was some negotiating tactic. Both Denmark and Panama have rejected any suggestion that they would give up territory. Trump also vowed to use economic force when asked if he would attempt to annex Canada and called their shared border an artificially drawn line. The boundary is the world's longest between two countries and it was established in treaties dating back to the founding of the United States in the late 1700s. The president-elect said the U.S. spends billions of dollars protecting Canada, and he criticized imports of Canadian cars, lumber as well as dairy products. But outgoing Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said there isn't even a slightest of chances of the two countries being merged. The news conference was initially billed as an economic development announcement to unveil Dubai developer Damac Properties' $20 billion investment to build data centers in the United States. But the president-elect went on to criticize the environmental regulations, the U.S. election system, the various legal cases against him, as well as incumbent U.S. President Joe Biden. Let's move on to the second international news item for this morning. Los Angeles has declared a state of emergency as a wildfire exploded in the mountains near the Pacific Palisades, a community near Malibu and Santa Monica, from 20 acres to more than 1,200 acres in a matter of just a few hours. The growth has been fueled by a fierce wind event that has placed a large portion of the state under a red flag warning, which warns of a high fire risk. Wind gusts of more than 80 miles per hour have been whipping through Southern California. Fire Chief Kristen Crowley said over 30,000 people are under evacuation orders and 13,000 buildings are under threat. Footage shows thick smoke rising near homes in the Pacific Palisades area and residents abandoning their cars to flee the flames. Los Angeles County Fire Chief Anthony Marone said the Pacific Palisades is not out of danger. It was observed that the situation is being caused by wind gusts of 126 to 160 kilometers per hour, combined with incredibly dry conditions as well as low humidity. Millions of people in California are under a red flag warning, meaning there is an extreme fire danger. Well, let's move on to another very special story for this morning. Lasantha Wickrematunge, a fearless journalist, and this name is very familiar to us Sri Lankans. Lasantha, who was the editor of the Sunday Leader newspaper at the time, threw caution to the wind in exposing those who engaged in corruption, even those in the upper echelons of the nation. Lasantha had an appetite for revealing the truth and exposing even the most clandestine misdealings, paving new ways in the field of investigative journalism. Lasantha was undeterred in his work, knowing fully well the substantial risk his line of work brought with it. He breathed his last on a fateful day like today, 16 years ago, when he was assassinated in a cowardly attack along the Athidi road by those who feared the power of his pen. At the time he was murdered, Lasantha only had with him his notebook and his pen. Lasantha, who was acclaimed for his services in the field of journalism and to the nation, was posthumously awarded the IPI World Press Freedom Hero. A number of arrests were made. No substantial or effective breakthrough has been made to date. A mere 48 hours prior to the demise of Lasantha Wickrematunge on the 6th of January 2009, a gang of thugs attacked and destroyed the then state-of-the-art MTV-MBC broadcasting complex in Depanama. Dishonest men fear the inescapable truth, and the truth always wins. The trust placed in us by you, the people, will continue to propel us towards creating a just and law-abiding society. Our dedication towards this ultimate goal will forever remain unwavered. Although those responsible for Lasantha's assassination are roaming freely for well over a decade, they will never be free from their conscience and the truth. We are not afraid to face off against the forces that stand against revealing details of those who perpetrated acts of corruption and fraud. The power of the people is the force that drives us, and it is the same power of the people that keeps us going strong in our service to the nation. The truth can never be hidden, and justice will always find its way to those who commit crimes. Well, with that, we bring to a close this morning's edition of the Breakfast Rundown. I'm Therunee Karunaratne. I'll see you once again tomorrow right here on TV1 at 7 a.m. Until then, take care. Have a wonderful day ahead.